In addition to the South African Constitution, the Electoral Act provides the main legal framework that enables the operations and administration of the election. The Electoral Act governs the operation of all national, provincial, and municipal elections in South Africa, together with its associated laws and regulations. In a previous lesson, we examined some of the provisions of the IEC's Electoral Code of Conduct regarding election violence and intimidation. Likewise, the IEC enforces the same code to ensure compliance with electoral rules. This code is binding on every registered political party and candidate. If anyone breaches the Code of Conduct and a complaint is lodged with the IEC, the Commission is obliged to investigate that complaint. If it finds grounds for a breach, the IEC must refer the matter to the Electoral Court for the appropriate sanctions to be imposed. The Electoral Court is a specialist court established to resolve electoral disputes and to oversee the decisions of the IEC. But before we get to how the Electoral Court works, let's first explore what constitutes an electoral offence. While political parties and independent candidates do pledge to uphold the Electoral Code of Conduct every time an election date is proclaimed, the code does not only apply to them. It also applies to every citizen. In this context, you commit an electoral offence if you interfere with the work of the IEC, use the voters' roll or other election materials for other purposes, or provide false information like the wrong address when registering to vote. Other offences include registering to vote using another person's name, registering to vote in a district where you do not reside, or voting at a voting district or voting station where you are not permitted to vote. It is also an offence to impersonate IEC officials or other accredited officials, to bribe IEC officials, or to publish false information that may disrupt, prevent, or improperly influence an election outcome. Like political parties, any citizen found guilty of committing an electoral offence can be fined or imprisoned for up to 10 years. So, how is the Electoral Court constituted? And why does its composition matter? The Electoral Court operates independently from the IEC. It belongs to the judicial organ of the state, which is responsible for ensuring that the other organs of state comply with the law. The court consists of 5 members, including the chairperson, who must be a judge of the Supreme Court of Appeal. 2 other members must be Supreme Court judges, and the remaining 2 members must be South African citizens who are not necessarily judges. The President appoints the members of the Electoral Court upon a recommendation from the Judicial Service Commission. Under Section 18 of the Electoral Commission Act of 1996, the Electoral Court has a status similar to that of the High Court, but it is limited in its scope. Because the Electoral Court is an ad hoc court, which means it's established for a specific purpose, it only meets when a case is brought before it. It is different from other courts, which are established permanently to handle a broad range of legal matters. Unlike other courts, the Electoral Court's cases are by definition urgent, meaning they must be dealt with in the shortest possible time, taking into account the election timetable. The decision of a majority of the Electoral Court members is the court's final decision. Since the Electoral Court is of equal status to the High Court, its decisions may be appealed to the Supreme Court of Appeal. However, in some cases, the Electoral Court's decisions may be appealed directly to the Constitutional Court. The Electoral Court may also refer some disputes to the High Court. Which matters does the Electoral Court deal with? The Electoral Court hears appeals against decisions of the IEC regarding the application of electoral law. These appeals may concern the decisions of the IEC on the registration of political parties or on the eligibility of candidates. The Electoral Court also rules on electoral disputes over vote counting and breaches of the Electoral Code of Conduct, including vote rigging. The Electoral Court is the final arbiter of disputes over vote counting, meaning that its decision is final and no appeal is allowed, even to the Constitutional Court. The Electoral Court also investigates allegations against members of the IEC and makes rules governing how other courts can hear disputes about the conduct of parties or candidates. However, it cannot act as a criminal court. Essentially, the Electoral Court can review the correctness and procedural fairness of IEC decisions. However, the IEC can appeal to the Constitutional Court on any of the Electoral Court's decisions. This acts as a guardrail to ensure compliance with electoral rules and a fair, functioning democracy.